What's up, you guys? This is HJ here, and welcome to another tech review video. In today's video, I'm going to be unboxing and reviewing the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G. Now, typically the price for this goes between $300 and $500 something dollars. Although, if you really want to and you're going through your carrier, you can easily get this on like a payment plan through your carrier and and pay for it over time, as most carriers will make you do that. So by the time you finish with that, it's probably going to cost you around $450. But if you get it outright unlocked and you just get it from like Amazon or Samsung directly, it's typically going to cost you between $350 and $500, anywhere between that price point. That being in US dollars, of course. And now inside the box, you get the Samsung A53 5G in the flesh. I put it back in the box for the purpose of this review because I had already opened it. I've used it for 3 years. So, yeah. You get your quick start guide. You're supposed to get a SIM card ejector. I lost that, but just know that you do get that in the box. And you also get a USB-C to USB-C cable. No charging brick. There's nothing in here. That's because they've stopped including that with all of their Samsung phones and tablets. The only devices from Samsung that ever get the charging brick are the laptops, and that's because, well, it's a requirement for a laptop to have it. But even the phones and tablets are a requirement. They have a requirement to have a charging brick, and for whatever reason, I don't know why they stopped including them in the box. But it doesn't matter because most of you guys already have a charging adapter at home, and if you don't, you can buy one from the dollar store like Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Family Dollar, Five Below, Walmart. Probably like anywhere between $1.25 to around 10-15 bucks for a really good one, and you just use that. So, keeping it simple, around the edge, brushed plastic. It's not aluminum. This is all plastic except for the screen, which is glass. But the back is plastic. The sides, bottoms, and tops are all polished plastic. And it feels really light in the hand. You're going to notice it when it's in your pocket, but that's to be expected. Especially if you have very large pockets, you're going to feel it. But if you're holding it in your hand, it feels fine. This is like a normal phone. Now, with the refresh rate and the display, 6.5 inches, AMOLED display, and it is 120 Hz. You can go down to 60 Hz manually, but there's no dynamic refresh rate. So, if you're expecting an adaptive refresh rate to save battery, I'm sorry guys, you gotta pick a side. You either choose high, you choose right or wrong, you choose standard, you choose right or wrong. Very simple. Now for the battery life on this thing, since I have used this in my daily driver, if you put it into 120 Hz mode, I know it usually says a day. For me personally, if I'm using my phone lightly or I'm watching a YouTube video, I leave it off the charger on 120 Hz mode. Generally, I can usually squeeze at least about 7.5 to maybe 9.5 hours. That's with like a game here and there, YouTube video, screen brightness on adaptive, and with it on 120 Hz, and also with some YouTube or some music, and all my Bluetooth and Wi-Fi enabled, and with 2 Bluetooth devices connected because I connect my controller and my headphones at the same time. That's generally where I land at about 8 to 9 hours before it gets to like 30-20% or so, and then I'll have to end up recharging it from there to keep it from going dead. If you put it on 60 Hz mode, then I wouldn't be a bit surprised if you could easily squeeze about 2.5 days out of this. Like, I've put it in 60 Hz mode, used it off and on throughout the day, left it off the charger overnight underneath my pillow, where my bed is, because I don't like to leave my phone on the charger on a desk like a normal person. I know, I'm a psychopath. call me what you will. And by the next morning, I wake up and I'll have like 50%, 60% left on the battery. So if you put on 60 Hz, you can easily get up to 2 days out of this. I wouldn't be a bit surprised because I have done it before. It's possible. Now for the speakers. For the speakers, you get two speakers. This one's the visible one. It's on the bottom next to the Type-C port. We'll talk about the micro SD card slot and the SIM card tray later. And you also have one up here above the camera. It's really thin slit, but it's a loudspeaker for your phone calls. That loudspeaker doubles up as your second phone speaker. So whatever you use to make calls will come through here. Whatever you listen to music through will come through both of these at the same time. So you'll be able to use one as a double up and one as a single speaker for, or a secondary speaker for music when you're using both. And something else to keep in mind is going to be the performance of this device. And we're going to get to the micro SD card tray last because I want to give you guys a little bit of a tip on how to get your apps and games to move to the SD card, because there's a little hack that I want to show you guys that I did on my A9 Plus review that fixes that problem so you can actually transfer them. Granted, it won't help with your default apps. But starting with the performance on this thing, I can safely say games like Minecraft or any native Android game that I've been able to play, I can play it really well. If I have the high refresh rate on, I can easily play it at around 60 to 90 FPS if I have 120 hertz mode on, and if I have it on low to medium. With Minecraft, I set it on like 8 chunks, and I put it on, I turn the fancy graphics off occasionally, and it's really well played. Really well played, really well playable, and it's really awesome experience. I'm going to load up a world here just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And I'm sorry if my camera keeps autofocusing. My phone camera is my main camera for my videos, so because I'm using my phone for the review, I had to use my tablet camera. So when I output this video on YouTube, it will be in 2K, because I'm going to edit it, but it might not look as crisp as if it were coming from my phone, the colors and the focusing, because it's all done on my tablet, which has an 8 megapixel back camera. So this is how Minecraft looks and feels. Pretty smooth. I'm not really getting a whole lot of lag. Move my hands out of the way. Not getting a whole lot of lag. I just move up here to the chest, crafting table, can walk out this door if I can actually see what I'm doing, and just walk over to the nether portal, spin around a little bit, maybe jump. Yeah, just jump. No problems. There's no problems with Minecraft. You can run Asphalt 9 easily. Hey, heck, I've even tried some games like CarX Street, and it's ran perfectly fine. Call of Duty Mobile works fine too. The thing about Call of Duty Mobile is that game is just really well optimized for my particular device. At least now it is. I do remember there being a time when a lot of the new games like Genshin Impact and some of the other games at launch for this phone were not as good as they are now. And part of the reason why the phone has gotten better is because of the Android updates we've received and the updates to the apps that we've received. So right now, this Android phone, not bad information, Android phone is currently on Android 14, One UI 6.1 as of the time I'm making this video. So you can tell the software's gotten better. The other thing is, the game and app developers, now that they've been rolling out new updates, they've been able to consistently perfect the games, because a lot of these games that we have for this phone, when they were launched like 2 or 3 years ago, especially if you're looking at like your Call of Duty Mobiles of the world, or your Genshin Impacts of the world, or even like if you're looking at some of the Lego games or stuff like that, some of the apps that came out in the same year were not going to be as optimized as the apps that came out for prior phones. And that's to be expected because they're brand new. But when you get a couple years of patches and bug fixes and updates, eventually the problems don't seem as noticeable as they were early on in its development cycle and its launch cycle. And that's part of the reason why I like this phone so much. It has a lot of good features. Like a really heck of a lot of good features. Now, let's talk about the camera. So you have a 64 megapixel standard camera, which can scale down to 16 megapixels. You have a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and let's see. I think I want to say this third camera is the macro camera, and I'll have to double check on that for you guys. But I want to say that's the macro camera. I only use the 12 megapixel and the 64 megapixel camera. I don't ever use the macro camera, but I do use the panorama every so often. Um, you know what? I'm gonna verify that though, because I really don't think that is another megapixel ultra wide camera. I think that's a macro camera, but I'll double check on that and leave that in the description, so you guys can know that for sure. So now that we've gotten across all of the major stuff, let's talk about the SD card, especially this particular model's capacity. We're also going to talk about how you can move your apps. So micro SD card slot for this for this phone is going to be in the SIM card tray. And if you look here, I have a 512 maximum. You can go up to 1 terabyte. That is unheard of on Samsung flagship phones. Let me tell you, I borrowed, or actually my dad gave me the S20 phone that was broken as a backup phone in case this phone ever got broken. And let me tell you, there was not a micro SD card slot in sight. Yes, there was a SIM card tray, but that was it. Whatever storage you get stuck with on the flagship phones, that's what you're stuck with. It's some kind of weird. So if you go with the budget phones, for most phone companies except Apple, because Apple never lets you upgrade any of their stuff, even down to their MacBooks, for crying out loud. But if you're on an Android or Windows side, especially Android phones, most budget to mid-range phone companies and phones will offer a micro SD card slot, whereas flagship phones like Samsung's S series phones, most Google Pixel phones, very 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 high end Motorola's, a lot of them do not offer micro SD cards. And that's weird because you would think that if you're paying more, you should get more. And it's weird because you have to downgrade to get that micro SD card at the expense of a couple other features. But then if you upgrade, you lose the main thing you want for storage and gain everything else. It's weird how they do that. It's a money thing, I know, but that's really weird. You would think if you had a low end phone, you wouldn't get it, and if you had a mid range to a high end phone, you would get it. But that's something for another day. So I'm going to go in here and show you guys that trick that I was talking about, how to move your apps to the SD card. So if you're not a developer, you're going to tap on the build number 10 times, and then you're going to scroll down here to developer mode, developer options, and you're going to scroll all the way down until you see the toggle for in the app section that says force allow apps on external. There it is. You'll turn that on, and then that will enable it so every single app except for your Samsung and Google default apps like the Play Store, your YouTube, any app that's pre-installed will besides your bloatware games, those will not be able to be moved. Any app that's a game or that's a general application that's installed after the fact of you receiving and activating your phone, as long as that's turned on, you will be able to move all the rest of them to the SD card. And it's a hidden feature that Samsung doesn't want you to know about, because the whole reason why they got rid of the ability to move the apps to the SD card, they say it's because of security, but it's really because Samsung and Google, who are Motorola and the others are fine, but Samsung and Google said, came up with the idea. They're like, hey, we are going to offer the micro SD card on our mid-range phones, and our flagship offerings were not, and we don't want people to transfer their apps to an external device. And that's a profit move. And so the reason why Samsung doesn't want you to know about this is because if you turn it on, if you get a device like this that's really, really good, and that you're okay with a couple compromises, if you buy a micro SD card, you don't have to spend more money for a higher storage variant, and you don't have a reason to buy their flagships. That saves you money, and that loses them profit. And that's why they don't want you to know about it, because of that reason. If everybody knew that, they would buy the phone that they want. This phone, Motorola, etc. They switch on that setting, and if they're okay losing a couple features, they would never have a reason to buy a flagship phone. And that is part of the reason why they don't want you to know about it. And the only reason I'm telling you about it is because you as a consumer deserve the right to know that this is an option and that it will save you time, effort, and money. So yeah, save some money, guys. Save some money. Samsung, please don't get mad at me for revealing your secrets. Okay, all that aside, I think that's it. So we're done with this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys found that little tip and trick useful. And if you did, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And I'm planning to do some more videos in the future, some more gaming videos. It's gonna be a little while before I get started on that with my podcast. Still taking center stage, but after I'm wrapping up with my podcast for this season, I'll start to roll out some more YouTube videos over time. Until next time, you guys, I'm HJ, and I'll catch you guys in my later videos and my podcast.